Very good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Mary Beth Schaefer. I am the Assistant Director and General Consultant for Central Kansas Library System. We have Jana Slisher joining us today, and I will hand things over to her in just a minute, but I first wanted to go through a couple of CKLS announcements, just for things to stay on your radar. We have a busy week this week. Tomorrow is our executive board meeting. It is in Claflin. And then on Friday, we will have our system plan overview and discussion of our proposed finance redistribution of finance committee's new funding mechanism. That's going to be part of that system plan. It will be Friday, the 24th at 1:30 p.m. It will be recorded and it will be posted on the archives. Also coming up real quick on April 6th is our directors meeting in Glen Elder, followed by the Pathfinder Committee Trailblazers Committee meeting at lunch. And then in the afternoon, we will have a programming idea swap. So if you can make that day, I hope you come with all your great programming ideas to share. Neither of these will be recorded because they are live, or none of these will be recorded because they are live, but I will take notes for the idea swap and just kind of send out a list of some of the great ideas that were shared and who shared them, so people can contact you later and be like, hey, I heard about this. And coming up the week of April 17th, we'll have a 4-day tech week, a webinar every day. Monday will be at 1:30, and I don't remember what these are. I should have pulled these up. Just a second. Monday will be let Google drive you, and I'll be going over all the Google Drive things for you. How to use it, how to upload files, how to store things, how to share things, all those great things. Tuesday will be the evening one at 6:30. This is more so that your board members can join you, and it's the IT list or the IT list, and it's IT policies that your library needs to have. April 19th is Wednesday, 1:30. Let's Get Digital, and it's about library collections. And Thursday will be our quick tech round. It'll also be at 1:30, and it's all quick things about the new library catalog called Aspen Discovery, TechSoup, cool apps. Your CKLS staff is excited to get this presented to you. On the registration page, you can sign up for one or you can sign up for all. They are each considered a separate event. So if you go to all four, you get 4 credits for that. You can also watch them. They will be recorded and put on our archive. Let's see, I think, Explorers Group at the end of the month on April 26th, it will be at La Crosse Schools. Patty, which school is it going to be at?
We'll be at the La Crosse High School, and it is on the west side of the school. The main door is to the north, and Diane or I will be standing outside going like this, and I'll have pizza and cookies.
And we will bring, we are bringing something for we're bringing pizza for Glen Elder for the directors meeting and the idea swap. Okay, I think that's everything for CKLS. If not, we'll catch up more at the end. Jana, take it away.
All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Jana Slisher, and I am the youth librarian at Bath Township Public Library in Bath, Michigan. I have been in youth services now for about 15 years, 2 years at this library, and about 13 years at another library in Michigan. First off, let me say thank you so much for inviting me to present today. I am very excited and honored to speak about this project that I am incredibly passionate about, and also to expand. This was a presentation that I gave at the American Rural and Small Libraries Conference in Chattanooga. This will be definitely more in depth, so I'm excited about that. I'm also very nervous. When I'm nervous, my voice tends to get higher and go faster. And I know I already sound kind of like I've been told a chipmunk on amphetamine. So if I get too fast, please let me know. And I will make every attempt to slow down. As you can see, the title of this presentation is Building Bridges, Connecting Michigan Students to the Public Library. When I first titled this presentation, it was a bit of a homage to my home state. I am from Michigan. We're very, very proud of our Mackinac Bridge and Great Lakes there. So, and a lot of stuff in Michigan shows bridges. So, but more importantly, I really chose the title because I think to improve literacy, it is essential that we establish a strong connection between public schools and public libraries and really have that bridge for students to be able to come to the public library. So those are two of my kids. I have four. So before I really get into the how to build a bridge, let's talk about why. I can't speak to what's going on in Kansas, but in Michigan, you could say that we're almost having a literacy crisis. I've given a lot of statistics there. We're seeing literacy levels really just continue to drop in Michigan. Along with that, the number of school librarians and actual libraries has greatly declined. You can see 73% between 2000 and 2016. Michigan is also one of the states with the worst funding inequity in among all states, meaning we have very, very wealthy schools, and then we have very, very poor schools. We have just a massive amount of inequity there. And following COVID, of course, we saw literacy rates drop everywhere, but in Michigan, our literacy rates drop more than twice the national average. So why? Well, I mean, we all know school libraries have always been a target of budget cuts. They're always, for a long time, they've been underfunded and understaffed. Also in Michigan, to address kind of our plummeting literacy levels, a law was passed that requires any school with a library to have a full-time certified librarian. Now, this is somebody that has a teaching degree plus their library degree on master's on top of that, and be full-time. So in your smaller, more rural schools, in your less affluent schools, this was a job that used to be just held by parapros and part-time ones. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong. I think school librarians are great and we should definitely have more of them. The problem is this law was passed and there was no additional funding allocated for it. So what this meant is just more and more school libraries closed. They were reconfigured, their spaces were reallocated, especially as we are seeing more technology. The libraries are closing, they're becoming computer labs and virtual learning centers, fewer and fewer collections, and they're not really having any kind of budget for collection development. So the books, when they do have books, they're old, they're out of date, they're in bad condition. And this problem was, of course, only made worse by COVID. It just more and more of library space and dollars had to go toward technology and virtual learning. So, oh, is there a question? Oh, okay. So, the results, there's fewer and fewer actual books in our schools, and literacy levels continue just to drop. I know in one of our local middle schools, it was a massive space. The books were reduced down to what fit into what was originally their storage closet, and now the rest of the middle school library is just computer tables. So only enough books, like they literally just gave all the books away and just kept what fit in a closet. Obviously, I'm talking to librarians. I don't need to go into the research. You guys all know all of this. The best way to improve literacy is with access to books. Kids do better in school, and there's all the benefits of reading, from building empathy to memory and concentration and critical thinking skills. We know that reading is the key to school success and also future success even. So we know that the kids need more books, and we know that our schools, at least in Michigan, don't have the staff, they don't have the funding or the resources or the ability year-round to give students access to books and digital sources. This is where, as a public library, we can really step up and kind of fill this gap and get students at our public schools access to books to read. Am I moving too fast? Okay. So how do we do this? How do we get kids using the public library? Because we know that there's lots of kids that aren't coming to the public library. We have great kids that do, and we have a lot of families that use the library regularly, but we know we're not reaching them all. At Bath, we really talked about that there's two main issues that are keeping kids from using the public library. And they kind of go hand in hand, but they're also separate. The bulk of my presentation, I'm going to talk about the first of these, which is parent and guardian involvement. Now, our current policy to get a library card for a minor requires their legal guardian to come to the library with them with a valid ID and sign an application, and then the parent and the student sign it together. For a variety of reasons, this is not happening nearly as much as we would like it to. Parents may not have transportation, they may not have time. Sometimes they just don't want to make the commitment. In our community, we do have a lot of kids that are in foster care. Foster parents a lot of times don't want to make that kind of commitment as far as being financially responsible. They don't want to come in and sign anything. Now, we have in the past tried to relax this policy because teachers have wanted kids to have library cards, especially like in our high school. They want kids to have access to some of the digital resources, and they want the kids to be using the library all summer. So we've relaxed the policy that allows applications to go home and teachers collect them and bring them back. That was a little bit better, but we're still really only seeing about half of those applications come back. So it's still a lot of kids that could really benefit with the use of the library, and we're just not reaching them. Another issue with, and sorry, I thought I turned that off. My bad.
No problem.
Another issue we're seeing with kind of related to parent guardian involvement, our library system groups household cards together. This is not something I generally agree with. I don't really think it's fair, but that's the way it works in our system. So if Tommy's mom has lost 5 DVDs and a hotspot and now has hundreds of dollars of fines, everyone in her family is going to be blocked out of using the library. They're going to be blocked out of computer use, they're going to be blocked out of digital resources, and they're not going to be able to be checking things out. That's where you really have, these punitive damages that kids are affected by because of family members. So our solution to this is really to establish a student library card. This would be independent of all family members. This is their card. We have had other cities surrounding us, bigger cities, the Detroit Public Library System, and we are outside of Lansing, which is our capital. They have a similar system. I know with Detroit, they partner with their schools and only allow digital resources, whereas Lansing, some of their schools allow also physical books. So we thought we could do something similar in our school district and have kids automatically receive a library card as soon as they start school. And this is, once again, their library card. It's independent of all family members, and it's a special student card, so to speak. So this is one of the things that is included in the chat as a PDF. So this was double-sided. This was the initial proposal of this project for my director, my library board, and then also for our superintendent of schools. I don't want to go through and read it all to you, but it really talks about what is the project goal is to just give all of our students library cards, and why is it needed? Because we have resources the schools may not. And what is going to be expected of everybody involved as far as our library board, they have to approve the project. It would require amending policy to affect these new student cards. Also, we looking down the road, if we give every student access to digital resources, we may have to adjust our downloadable budget. We may not have to invest more in our hoopla and different things like that. And kind of like all the, so this was basically my official proposal, I guess you could call it, and what that would entail. So initially, when I first presented this to my library board and director, they were very excited about it. Of course, we want kids to have access to books. We are a fairly new library. Bath Library is actually only about 5 years old, so we are a new library system, and our board is very proud. A lot of people worked really, really hard fundraising for years to get this town our library. So we're very proud of our library and excited to have it. And we want as many people using it as possible. Also, just selfishly, if like more kids are using the library, maybe they'll be lifelong readers. They're going to be future lovers of the library and, future supporters of future millages. Well, what happened then is suddenly libraries were in the news, and they were in the news a lot, and they still are. And a lot of them are in Michigan. And it kind of ended up turning into like a little bit of trepidation, like, no, we kind of have a millage coming up too. There's a lot of bad publicity. Maybe we should just kind of fly under the radar. We saw some different libraries in Michigan actually were defunded due to very vocal anti-library campaigns, which is the picture on the right. We had I think, pretty low-key pride display for June, but even that had members of the community on Facebook referring, the whole grooming thing came out. Also, I had my very first official book complaint, which was the book in the center. Strangely, not what I expected would issue complaints. No, this isn't our teen nonfiction section. It is, it's like anatomy. It's about puberty and periods and things like that. But we actually had an official complaint where somebody thought it was inappropriate for the library. So I heard a lot of like, let's just not poke the bear now. Let's just wait and, things cool down.
Jana,
yes.
would you talk a little bit more about your official complaint? How far did it get? Are you still working on it, or has it been resolved?
It has been resolved. So I think I think it's because it says sex on the cover. Once again, we do have an official complaint policy. The official complaint policy requires you to read the book or watch the movie or what it is you're complaining about in its entirety. And that didn't happen. They just wanted to complain that it was. Also, I think once we took the new sticker off, and at first too, it was displayed in the teen area as a new nonfiction book. Once I think it had the new sticker off and it was on the shelf, I think then it was like a little less worrisome. I really didn't fully understand. I mean, even when I was young, there were books about puberty in the library. I mean, it was talked about. So, but yes, once again, they were handed the official form. They chose not to actually check out the book and read it in its entirety. And that was kind of the end of it. I think that tends to be the end with a lot of these complaints is, they don't actually want to go through all the steps. And that's where it's really important. I think we have a very clear policy with it. Like, there is an official form. These are the steps you have to take. Then it's going to be read by board members and staff members. And, and most people just don't want to do that. They just want to complain.
Did you have that policy in place for a while, or is that something you've newly added or worked on?
Nope, that has been in place actually for a while. Our current director, actually, who I worked with before, we were very fortunate actually some years ago when we had a complaint about and Tango Makes Three, where our library that didn't have an official policy for book complaints went through that. And so when she moved here, it was very important, like right away, like, no, we are going to have a challenge policy in place from the get-go. So we have been very fortunate in that, is to already have an established policy for that.
Thank you. There's a couple comments in chat.
Okay.
Patty reminds us that a lot of Kansas libraries are in the news too. Frightening. If your library is under fire or you are facing book complaints, please reach out to us at CKLS for assistance. Was your challenge, was it by an individual or was it by a group?
It was by an individual.
Okay.
You know, and right now we're, I'm sure a lot of you have read about what's happening. I know every library has had a lot of articles about it, what's happening in Lapeer County Library, Lapeer District Library in Michigan, where the prosecutor there is bringing charges against the director for genderqueer being on their shelf. So, you know, it's something that I know that is, you know, that a lot of library directors, we're having a lot of meetings about it. We're discussing how you handle it, you know, what, you know, talking to staff, like, what do you say? What do you do? And really, you know, the key is to really have your policy in place and make sure your staff knows what to do. Like, you know, these are the challenge things, give them to them. You know, if they complain, give them the challenge form, you know, invite them to talk to the director about it. And like I said, really just have your policy in place. I think that's really the important thing to do.
I think so too. One, your staff then know what to do, but then your patron also knows what the process is. And I think it also shows that we're already prepared for you to share your opinion, which we want you to. We want you to have a voice in the collection that your taxes are providing. And this is a formal way. This is the proper way to go through it. These are the steps. This is how we do it. So it shows how seriously we're taking these comments that we're getting about the collection and going through a proper process. So
yes.
Thank you.
No problem. So this was really disappointing for me, because like I'd gotten approval and then it was kind of like, oh, now they're not too sure. But luckily I had already met with the superintendent of our schools, and he was just like immediate, definitive, let's do it right now. Yes, I'm all for this. This is awesome. So that really helped dispel a lot of the fears of our board of directors and really kind of brought them back to my side. Like, nope, we're going to do this. This is going to be great. So it really, I think moving forward with a project like this, having a champion at the school is really key. You're going to need a school on your side. I mean, you really can't do student library cards without the school helping you. And to have someone who feels just as passionate and excited about getting the kids these student cards is really key to making it happen. And I was very fortunate in that our superintendent was so positive from the get-go.
Jana?
Yes.
Did you get any pushback from parents when you started talking about this?
No, not so far. And I will kind of go into that. So far, we haven't had any pushback. We've actually had a lot of teachers really very positive too about, using this as a resource, acknowledging like our middle school and high school don't have libraries in our school right now. Our teachers are really actually quite desperate for the kids to have these accesses. So, so far we haven't had any real pushback. I know in Lansing, in our capital area district library system, because there are, I believe, 10 to 12 libraries that make up the capital area district system. They ended up with recently, like they had initially agreed to doing the student cards, and then backed, like one township like backed out due to push from the community. And my understanding from the director there is it actually kind of came more just from their school board and not so much from the parents. So like, you just never know. I always tell parents, like, if you love the library, please go to your school board meetings. Please join, consider volunteering at your library, go to the board meetings, be vocal. I think right now, I think you have people that are kind of anti-library and for book bannings. I don't think there's more of them. I just think that they're louder. And so I think it's really up to us to be more vocal and, and really start to push back with what we believe. So once I kind of had the green light on the project, it kind of then went to all the hard logistical and technical issues, which were incredibly frustrating. This is where we kind of went through, okay, so they're going to have student cards, but we're not issuing physical cards. What's going to be their library card number? What's going to be their password? Is it going to work with our ILS? Because it's not going to look the same as our library cards. So, going over with tech support, talking to Hoopla and Canopy and all those things of, well, it's still our library, but if it looks different than our other cards, is it going to take it? And I mean, tech support was very much like, well, don't use letters, that'll make it too hard. And, and then Hoopla was like, you need to have 10 digits. And it was just all, yeah, that took time. And then also one of our biggest issues when we decided to go with the student ID, because the student ID, all students in our school system automatically, even if they don't purchase pictures, receive a student ID that has a barcode on it. So that turned out like we could scan that barcode, it would pop up. It worked perfect. But the problem is like the barcode, like it just had the barcode and the number was not printed on the student IDs. And there wasn't an easy way for students to just know this number. There wasn't an easy place for them to go and see this number either. Their student IDs are used for school lunch and for like getting into sporting events. So we wanted it to be user friendly, and it's not very user friendly if they can't figure out the number, which it's fine if they're just coming into the library with the card and checking out books, but for digital resources, they have to be able to type in the number. What ended up happening is our superintendent ended up going back and forth with Life Touch for some time. And unfortunately, we ended up missing last fall's pictures just because it took so long to get Life Touch to agree to just print on, numbers underneath the barcodes. It actually took, finally, the superintendent was like, our contract is up with you next year. If you don't just put the numbers on there, we're going to find a different company. And then immediately their response is like, oh, yes, we can do this now. So that ended up taking a really long time. We had a lot of issues figured out. And we were just kind of waiting to hear, like, can they put the numbers on there? So yeah, that turned out to be a big problem. So once we kind of figured out all that technical stuff and had all those details, it was really about getting the program off the ground. Kind of a pun there because I have a little rocket ship and, I'm corny and like puns.
You love puns too. Thank you.
So how are we going to prep this information for families and teachers, library staff? How are we going to let them know what's going on and let them know how to use all this? I mentioned we are close to Lansing area communities. They, in their multiple districts, call it their Student Success Initiative, and our superintendent really liked that because name. Our concern was we're too close to them, and we really didn't want families trying to use, think that they could go to a Lansing branch and use their student ID. We really wanted. My director was very much like, no, we really need to make it separate from Lansing. So we really wanted to rename it, and I like the idea of kind of branding everything. I admit I stole the BLAS name, the acronym from a library in Tennessee. But we're far away from them, so it doesn't matter. Feel free to steal it from me. That's
I
okay.
say librarians share everything. It's fine.
Exactly. I really liked the idea of an acronym. It's easy to remember. It stands for Bringing Library and School Together, which I think is what we're doing. I found this cute logo, little logo on Canva, so that I can put on everything, and it looks bright and colorful and fun. And so that's kind of our logo for our card and what we're going to call it. So then this is also as a PDF in the chat. This is the front and back of our student letter that was sent home with pictures about what the blast card is, what it means, kind of little snippets about the rules, that this card is going to be free no matter where they live as long as they attend Bath schools. They don't get a physical card. They're going to use their student ID. To check out. What was decided by the board was up to 3 physical books. And so they can get 3 physical books or audiobooks from the library. There's no DVDs, no hands-on learning kits, which are what we call like our STEM kits, nothing from the Library of Things. So no tablets, nothing like that. This is for books and audiobooks. And as I mentioned, it's always hard to get parents to sign permission slips and send them back. That's why we're asking for the opposite. We're not taking away a parent's choice. If they do not want their child to access the library, that's their right. But then they have to fill out this form and send it back. They don't send this back, we're just going to add them to our system. Now, this is not permanent. Down the road, if they change their mind, they can still do that, but they are going to have to come into the library with their student and their student's ID to ask that they no longer be there. They're going to have to come in together to tell us that they don't want to do it anymore.
Jana,
Yes.
I have a question about the student cards. What happens with damaged or lost items on a student's account? Is the student responsible or the parents, caregivers, guardians?
Yes. So this is kind of so I'm going to kind of go into that because I know that's going to be like something that everybody is going to ask, like, what if they lose something? And that was honestly like the first thing, my board of directors was like, oh no, we're not going to give teens book. They're going to lose them and ruin them. And it's going to cost us a lot of money. That is something that loss is always going to be a concern. So we're not charging parents because we're not making them sign anything. We can't, we're not going to hold them responsible for this. This card is going to be independent. It's going to belong to the student. So we're not charging guardians or anything. We're already a fine-free library, so we don't have late fees, but of course, we do expect them to return items. And they are charged for lost or damaged items. At the same time, if a child leaves a copy of Dog Man outside in the rain at the age of 10 and is never able to pay that back, I don't want them to be in 12th grade and still not be able to check out library books or use anything. What this means is it's going to reset every school year. So basically what I'm saying is they can lose up to 3 books a school year. It's going to reset the following school year at 0. This was a concern for our board. Speaking to multiple libraries, they have seen no real increase. I know with capital area district libraries and also with another town I talked to that originally only allowed 1 book at a time, they increased to 5 because they were really seeing no more loss than what is normal. In fact, the Grand Ledge director even told me, I've seen more loss from adults than I have from the kids checking out the books. It's a risk. I understand that. It's always a risk letting people take books from the library, but it's also really important that these kids have access and have books to read, and that's really important to me. Another difference with the student card is with our regular library cards. If you damage something and you have that fine, or lost something and then you have that fine on your account, that's going to block you from digital resources. It's going to lock you out of using like Libby and Hoopla and different things. It's still really important to me that the students have access to those digital resources. I think it's important for the teachers to know that they're going to have, that this is also supposed to help teachers. So I want the teachers to know that the kids are going to have access to this. So unlike regular cards, if they have lost a book and they owe like $10.50 for a book for that school year, they aren't going to be allowed to check out any more physical books that school year, but they can still use all the digital resources. I'm not going to take that away from them. That was kind of really important to me, that they still have some sort of access.
Thank you, Jenna. That's actually really interesting about the not blocking digital access, even with restrictions on the physical part of it. So you do have a checkout limit, is that right, of 3 physical items?
Yes, we're doing 3 physical, and basically that comes down to books or audiobooks.
And what's your checkout limit for your digital items? Like how many can you get for Hoopla and Libby?
For Hoopla, we have, I believe, 7. And I think Libby is also 7. Canopy currently is 3.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Oh, another comment. Sorry. Resetting each school year is amazing. The cost of doing business. Did you have to significantly increase your budget for more money for your digital resources for Hoopla and Canopy?
Yes. For Hoopla, and honestly, since we have established Hoopla, we've each year as our patronage grows, we have increased that. So we are kind of like allocating, especially for me, as far as my juvenile budget, allocating more for Hoopla and also purchasing more books just for us for Libby. So yes, that is also part of it, is to kind of like, and that was going to be something that we knew would happen. Canopy, not so much so far, which kind of makes me say, I love Canopy. Maybe I'm like weird. I really, really like Canopy. It's just as popular with other people.
So were you allocating from current budgets, or was there more budget money assigned to supplement digital resources?
Right now it's from current budget, but in our next budget, we'll probably allocate more funds for digital resources. Another issue, I'm not sure how Michigan has very strict laws about allowing minors to use the internet and computers. So to use the internet in Michigan, you absolutely have to have a parent guardian sign. Therefore, kids, they can bring their own devices and use Wi-Fi, but they are not going to be able to use their student card to hop on our computers to do Minecraft or anything like that. That's a big no-no in Michigan as far as legality. Another issue, which so far really hasn't been an issue, is, can I see what my child checks out? Yes and no is kind of my answer to that. If you call me and ask me what your child has checked out, I am not going to tell you. We really adhere to Article 7, which is written right there of the ALA Bill of Rights. All people, regardless of their age, have the right to privacy of what they read and confidentiality. So if you come in and ask me, I'm not going to tell you. If you call on the phone, I'm not going to ask you. I'm not going to tell you what your child has checked out. That goes for their regular library cards too, unless you have on there that you are on there as a person of contact. Now, so with the student IDs, they haven't ever signed anything. So they're not on there as a contact person, and they're not financially responsible. What I can tell them is if they have their student's ID number and password, they are able to log on from home into our catalog and see what reserves and what's checked out, because we have it where you can renew from home. So that is something. Now, I'm not going to, if they come in and want to know, I'm not going to tell them the ID number and password there and show them how to do it. They have to have their student ID. They're going to have to know those things themselves and do it on their own. So yes, parents can see, but that's also kind of up to their student and whether or not they know their ID number and their password. I also always tell parents, guardians, if you want to know what your child is reading, ask them. Like, if you're really concerned, kids like to talk about what they're reading. Ask any teenager what their favorite manga is, and they will go on and on. So, the first way to know this, just ask. They'll probably tell you, that's kind of always my initial response to when people ask that question. Was there any questions about that?
This is Patty. I have a question. We believed in Kansas that what was written in the ALA Bill of Rights matched our Kansas library law, but I learned the hard way that that was not the case. So does your Michigan library law support ALA's stance on privacy?
Yes, they do. So yes, MLA does support ALL Bill of Rights. So they've been very vocal about that. And so for us, it's definitely important to adhere to that. Also, we did have some teachers want to know, some principals want to know, like, well, what information is the school going to share? That was a concern. Like, we don't, obviously, we want student information to be secure. They wanted to make sure that we weren't going to be able to access any kind of private files. So the school provides the library with the student's name, their ID number, the year that they graduate. And that's, for us, that just makes it easier. If we know the year that they graduate, that just makes it easier for us to remove them from our system when they graduate. That's just a technical, it just is way easier. And then their school email address. So we, if they reserve books, obviously we want to be able to tell them that they're there and different things like that. And as far as, like, hoopla notifications and things like that, we need their email address.
So because you're using a school email address, at any point, because it's a school email address, anyone could look, any person in authority can have access to that email in the school. So if say a teacher wanted to know what Johnny was reading, you're not going to answer her either, correct?
No.
Okay.
No.
So you're not, even though you're using the student ID number and email, you're not, the school has no access, any more access than the parent does in this privacy situation.
No.
Okay, thank you.
And one more question. What age do you start this card program? Is this as soon as they start school, or is it starting junior high or high school? Or?
It's for everybody. They all do receive student IDs. They all actually, the email issue is another issue. We don't add the emails. They don't get their student email, I believe, until 4th grade. So up until that point, we, obviously a 7-year-old is probably not going to be going on and reserving books. So we're just leaving that empty for that point. We add their email once they're of age and have an email. But we are just doing it for everybody. We're not putting like an age limit on it. Granted, this program is definitely, we're really hoping to reach more of the older kids, especially the middle schoolers and high schoolers, but it is for all of them, and we're offering it to all of them. And kind of going into the back sheet of my FAQ sheet, this is just a little bit of kind of like selling what, obviously I think the books are the best part, but I want to sell this to parents and teachers too, and show them like what they're going to have access to. I just put a few of the ones that I thought would be most beneficial to families, the digital resources that are available with the library card. And this is a chance like for them really to see the different things that your library system offers. And this is kind of like promotional for us too, like that parents and teachers and families may not always be aware of everything we have to offer in addition to books. So through our card, of course, we have Libby and Hoopla. We have a language, Mango's our language program. We do have tutor.com that's available. We've had a lot of families ask for tutoring services, whether the library offers tutor services. We don't have a tutor on staff. We do have tutors that have used our space, but we do with their library card, they can access tutor.com. Then of course we have Canopy. I already mentioned, I really like Canopy. I also think this is great. Canopy does have limits on how many things you can download, but Kids Canopy has unlimited views. And that's something you can put right on your smart TV for younger families. It's something that, not every family can afford Disney Plus and Netflix and all those different things. There's a lot of great programs for kids on Canopy Kids, and they're free with a library card and unlimited. You don't have HBO. Sesame Street is on Canopy. There's Berenstain Bears, and there's Arthur, and a ton of PBS series, and lots of really cool animated picture books. My son loves to watch the Bruce ones and the Pigeon ones over and over and over. So I think that's something really valuable to teachers also, to maybe do some of the books. There's really good documentaries that they could actually even assign, because the kids would have the ability to watch these. They all have Chromebooks. And then I'm sure your state library also has an e-library available with that you have access to with a state library card. So with this, they would be able to access then all the digital resources also available through our Michigan e-library. Our Learning Express library is one that's great, that has all the practice tests, all the big, that you can imagine. Lots of classes on how to use Excel, different, Word, all, tons of technology tutorials, practice tests, ebooks, all that kind of stuff. And then a lot of research databases, ones for younger kids, one for older kids, that are great, have lots of, articles, ebooks, different things if they're researching for papers. And those are all things that they would be able to access with their student card. And once again, they can access those even if they've already lost 3 books.
Another question, Jana, does the school notify you if a student is withdrawn from school, or does it just automatically disappear at the end of the year when you redo it?
No, the school has to notify us when students leave their system, and then we have to like actually physically delete them. Unfortunately, we're pretty lucky. We're a small system. I'm sure it's harder for like a lot bigger systems, and maybe they just leave them in there. But no, schools have to notify us if somebody leaves or if somebody comes in. And that's something, so far we haven't had that happen. We haven't had new students come in, but to really let us know when new students come in so that we can help them get into our system.
And another question is, how are your elementary school libraries book collections? Are they decent, or are they struggling because of all the cuts and the law that restricted how they could do a library without a staff member?
Yeah, they technically they can't in Michigan, they don't call it a library. Because they can't. I know as far as funding, they get books through their book fair, and that's their only source of funding, is the Scholastic Book Fair. So that's their only way to get new books. Their collections are definitely very much struggling. A lot of the books are ones that I probably would have weeded and replaced, because they're really, really rough. They are not in good condition at all. And I know as far as like the younger classes, a lot of our learning to read classes, they actually are printing off their books. They're printing off instead of having like easy readers in the class, they are like printing like the little decodable readers and giving them out that way. So even like classroom libraries, there's not a lot of selection. And then once you get to the teens, there's not really much of anything. There's definitely, I know the teens that come in here after school, they really want the manga and the graphic novels. They do not have those at our schools right now. So yeah, the collections, even in the elementary level, the elementary is better. There are still books there. They're not great. Does that help?
Yeah, that helps. Thank you. And how many weeks into the school year does it take to get everyone's cards up and running? Or are you able to do that ahead of time?
This year was rough. Hopefully next year will be easier as we have everything, but they get their pictures taken. They get their pictures taken very early now. They get their pictures taken like the second week of school, and then the school is able to send us those numbers between them and the pictures being returned. So they can send us those numbers. We put the letters all in the picture packets to go home. And then once those go home, we wait 2 weeks to get forms back, and then we start just inputting all the numbers.
Thank you.
Not as early. I mean, it's going to get easier each time. Like I said, we're a small. It helps when you're a small rural community. You know,
So how big is your community?
Oh, we serve an area. Our service area, I believe, is 11,000. That's our full service area.
Sure.
Which kind of takes me into, okay, and as far as further promotion and education, this year was harder because we got a late start. Over towards the end of the summer, we'll be meeting with teachers to really discuss everything available. We're gonna, as they go back and have their staff meetings towards the end of the summer in August, we're going to be meeting with teachers to really talk about all the different resources available, giving more detailed instructions about what they can use, you know, and hopefully get them excited. I don't want them ever to feel like that I'm trying to give them more work to do, that I want this to be beneficial and helpful and they can use it or not. But I definitely don't want them to think like I'm giving them assignments and trying to add to their plate. I know teachers are already crazy busy and have a lot going on and a lot of other stressors. So I definitely don't want to add to that. Also, we're in the process of making YouTube videos. We already have YouTube videos on our channel that show like how to log on to Libby and all those different things. We're in the process of making new YouTube videos specifically for students about how to access all the digital resources. And I know that there's ones that are out there that kind of show things, but to really make them kind of like personal to our community is really important to us. So that's why we kind of like to do our own thing. And that's kind of like some further promotion and education for families and teachers about what we're making available for them. This I haven't really talked about yet. Solution to barrier number 2 is transportation, as the other barrier that I talked about, that a lot of times goes hand in hand with parent involvement. We're a small community, but geographically we're quite large. We're a very rural district. It's very spread out. So there's a lot of students that even with a library card, they will get to use the digital things, but they're just not going to have access to coming to the library. Their families are going to rely on school busing to get them to and from school. And so we really want, at least during the school year, them to have the chance to read more books. Once again, I think this is really important as we go into our older students because they don't have libraries. In the school library, at least they go to the reading center and are able to check books out. The middle and high school do not have libraries. So our next step is to, when kids reserve books, that we will actually deliver them to the school and we'll have a return box also located in each school. We're waiting on this. We're trying to smooth out all of our kinks with the student cards and make sure we have all those running before we sort this out. But that's kind of our next step, is our future goal. And we've had some of our friends group have talked about purchasing our return boxes for us and having one in each school. But then it's also going to take working with the teachers, because when we deliver the books, somebody's going to have to make sure that they go to the right students. So the office would have to call them in. And that might not happen a lot to start, but we're hoping that it will continue to grow. But that is like our next step, is to add that. And so final words of advice. It's really important to get your school on board you're going to need somebody to help you get information and kind of like be a champion for you on the school level. Take your time, kind of figure out all your details and problems before they happen. And I think you mentioned with technology, you are going to have problems. So they will happen. They will definitely be there. And as Captain Jason Nesmith from Galaxy Quest says, never give up and never surrender. Just, if you really want it to happen, you can, and just keep working at it. Yeah, because, really the most important thing for us is to get kids reading. That's kind of, as librarians, that's my goal. That's my goal as a parent. We just want kids to read more, and because literacy is important.
For sure. We do have one question in the chat.
Okay.
It says, if your service area is 11,000, how many students are signed up for this program? Do you have a general number of how many opt out?
We didn't have any opt-outs.
Okay, so how many kids do you have about?
Oh gosh, I believe that we had about 500. I should have written down that exact number, but between all three schools. So we're smaller, but I know when I talked to other libraries, I talked to one library, they've had student cards for 5 years. Over the 5 years, they've only had 3 families opt out.
Wow, that's not very many.
No.
We have quite a few rural and small libraries, and so this sounds really awesome.
We do have one school librarian joining us today.
Okay.
Jan, do you have any thoughts on a program like this? Would this work in your community?
I can open up my chat now.
Jana, we serve 54 public libraries across a 17 county area and 34 school districts, which is 63 public schools over our area.
Oh, wow.
And so what we do is we provide education and training services. We have 3 consultants on staff and then another 9 or 11 people. It's one of the 2 numbers. And we do everything from book processing to new librarian training to trustee training. So we kind of wear all the hats. So
okay.
But we have an outreach bookmobile. We provide STEM kits for youth services programming. So we kind of do it all from the behind the scenes aspect. So but the libraries that were in attendance today all represent public libraries except one who represents a school. And those in attendance today, the smallest town is just right under 100 people. And the largest town is probably 900 people. So we understand spell and roll.
Yeah, we're very strange. We're very, very spread out. And we're to the point where we're starting to be considered a suburb of Lansing, as Lansing has pushed its way further and further out. So we're actually one of the few communities that's grown in population. We're one of the only communities outside of Lansing that's actually growing in population right now, which is exciting. So, and like I said, we haven't been a library very long. It actually started out, they were at first with a larger town wanted to see if they would put a branch in Bath, and the larger towns didn't want to have branches in Bath. So yeah, we had a really hardworking group of community members that worked really, really hard to get our library here. So we're very proud of it. Libraries, we're kind of in a unique position in Michigan where I believe like one of the libraries outside of Detroit in one of their larger suburbs was like school library of the year, and it's amazing. I mean, it's gorgeous, but like, yeah, there, like, you go into you know, if you travel throughout like the UP or anything like that, there are not going to be school libraries. So there's definitely a lot of disparity, and a lot of disparity as far as collection development and, you know, in our school libraries right now. And it's really hard because, like I said, our middle school, I mean, the younger kids are still have something, but once you get past that, once you get into like middle school and high school, there's just not books. There's definitely not anything new. And that's really what we're hoping, is to really encourage these kids to continue reading, to really become lifelong supporters of our library, of libraries in general, wherever they go. And yeah, and it's something, you know, it really kind of led from my first year here, having multiple teachers ask, like, how do I get my kids cards? You know, like I said, we've had almost all of our elementary classes have walked down here to tour the library, especially at the end of the year. The teachers are just like, you need to use the library over the summer. And this is something where, you know, like I said, we tried sending applications home. We still just don't get a lot back. And so this is kind of hopefully our way of that we will get more and more kids using the library and reading books.
We do have a couple comments in the chat. Megan Love from Belleville says that this helped me get a few ideas of what to try next. I tried to get a similar thing going with the junior senior high at the start of the school year, but it kind of fell apart. I'm going to keep trying though, pardon me. Angela Delphus says thank you. And Shelby says, oh, she wanted access to the links. She says, also, this has been great. It helps us move forward with an issue that we've been discussing recently. Thank you.
We thank you, Jana. We appreciate you taking your time. You did an
Thank you so
amazing
much.
job. You're
Thank you.
exactly what we needed today. So thank you for taking your time with us and spending the afternoon. We know that you're about to get inundated with young adults, and they're headed for their snack drawer. So we won't keep you. As for CKLS staff, a few of us will stay on the line. If you need something, we're here for the next few minutes or so. And again, Jana, we want to thank you. I put the link to the handouts back in the chat, as well as Jana's email address. If you would like to reach out to her, or don't hesitate to reach out to one of us, and we can connect you back to Jana. Again, thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Have a great day, and we hope to see you all at the system plan discussion on Friday, the directors meeting, and the idea swap, and the Pathfinder meeting, which is April the 6th, Explorers group meeting, which is April 26th, and there's probably a whole bunch of other stuff that I don't remember. So don't hesitate to reach out if we can do something for you. You all have a great day. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Michael, will you capture the chat and save the recording, please?
Yep, can do.
So
Thank
I
you.
don't know about everybody else, but I saw a lot of similarities. Did you guys see them too? Librarians?
Well, it sounds like their schools are in an even worse shape than we are. And we have felt for a long time that things are bad. So I don't know if it makes you feel better or worse. But the fact that they have no middle school and high school libraries, or very few, is sad, because there's a piece of law out there that says you have to do this in order to be doing that. The fact that there's elementary schools are only supported by a Scholastic Book Fair is not of surprise at all to us. as many of our schools are facing that same situation. And that is completely heartbreaking from someone who used to be a school librarian. I spent 5 years in the school library world, and my heart, it belongs to public libraries, but as a former educator, it's heartbreaking that there's just not support out there. And although it's very limited support, that $500 that CKLS allots to each school district each year, we're always told of the power that even that little bit of money does. We were told about it just last Friday when we had a visit from a school librarian, and she divided the money half and half between elementary and high school. That was what she was going to do this year, but next year she's working on a project that is probably going to have to devote it to elementary for the year, and then it'll be high school the next year. And so, but it's not much we can do, but it is something, and it is impactful. So other thoughts?
Joanna says that it sounds like their lawmakers have never visited small schools.
I was surprised at how quickly her superintendent jumped on the wagon. And
I was pleasantly surprised by that.
And that speaks really, really loudly for being able to get a project like this off the ground. So she was great. I was glad to have her this afternoon. She did a super job. Gail and I saw her at RSL in Chattanooga, but now that she's had time to flesh out this program, so we were a good place for her to start and practice. So thank you for all of your kindness, because it makes presenting on Zoom so much easier when you're all out there cheering for us.
Amy Otis says, random question, do other libraries pick teachers' minds when it comes to selecting books / items to help supplement, so to speak, what they're missing, but would be beneficial to the public library as well?
This is Gail. I would say if we're lucky, we get that teacher input. Absolutely. When we're selecting for children's nonfiction, we talk to the schools as much as we're able about what do they do reports on anymore, those kinds of things, so we can, if possible, have those items in our library for sure.
And Joanna Runyon from Smith Center says their state law is basically punishing small schools and their students by having those laws enacted. Yep. And Barb from Formosa says, Amy, I have some info from the school in Mankato. I think I absolutely loved how the administrator just kind of talked to the card company when they were waffling about the numbers on the cards, and it's like, well, our contract's up next year. So you should probably do this. And then they did. It's having that support is just like everything.
I can't wait to watch the archive. Hopefully it'll be ready, not tonight, but soon.
Joanna says the elementary school para is the leader of our summer reading program. We pick her brain during the school year to see what the kids are really reading, and we use that info to decide which series to invest in. That's a good idea.